Good afternoon, everyone, and welcome to this week's Abacus Next Free Training Tuesdays webinar. This week, we're going to be focusing on reporting at a high level within Amicus Attorney. My name is Darren Juby. I'm a product trainer here at Abacus Next, with my focus being the Amicus Attorney product line. Now, as always, if anybody has any questions during today's webinar, please do take advantage of the questions feature here in GoToMeeting and ask away. And please do provide your contact information, such as your email address, when asking. That way, if I can't get to your question during today's session, I can easily follow up with you afterwards to provide you the information that you may be seeking. And so again, welcome everybody to this afternoon session. We're going to cover a lot of information here over the course of the next hour. So without further ado, let us begin. So just a brief agenda on what we're going to be covering and demonstrating over the course of the next hour here today. We're going to begin by having a discussion about the different reporting or the different methods in which we could do some reporting within Amicus Attorney. After we've had that discussion, we'll move along to doing a demonstration of everything that we've discussed. And then from there, like I said, time permitting, I will get to answering any of your questions as well. And I will try to answer your questions during the course of the session as well if it kind of works that way. And like I said, if not, I will hold off and answer those towards the end. So to begin with, let us begin talking about reporting within Amicus Attorney. So there's four types of reporting within Amicus Attorney whenever we think about it. These are basically four ways that we can go about generating reports that's based upon the data that we have within our Amicus Attorney database. They are as follows. We have Microsoft SQL reporting services. Within the program itself, these are referred to as the advanced reports. And as we get to the demonstration portion, I will do my best to make the differences between those two quite apparent to you all. And again, I'll show you where we access all of this within the program. As well, we've got crystal reports. Now, these are legacy reports, or what we refer to as legacy, given that they've been around since the earliest versions of Amicus Attorney. And so a lot of those reports, especially for those of you that have used earlier versions and transitioned along and upgraded along the path to the current version, you'll recognize these reports as something you've been using from the get-go when it comes to Amicus Attorney. And within the program itself, they are referred to as basic reports. Again, we will cover all of that as we move along in our demonstration portion of today's session. Now, as well, we have document assembly available to us. And a lot of times we don't think of document assembly as being a reporting tool. We think of it as that's how we generate our documents. Well, we can also generate reports based on document assembly templates, and I will demonstrate all of that as we move along here today. But we can use the document assembly capabilities within Amicus Attorney to generate some pretty good reports for ourselves, depending, of course, on what we're looking for, and of course, also depending on the templates we have available to use. And of course, I will briefly touch upon hot docs as well when it comes to using document assembly in a reporting type of context. And I will briefly touch upon that. Now, that is an add-on or an additional product that we would use in conjunction with Amicus Attorney, of course. So that's why I'll spend just a little bit of time on that. And of course, we also have what I like to refer to as in the software as being interactive reporting tools. And what I mean by that is some of the filters that we have available in the different modules of Amicus Attorney. And I will show I will do as best as I can to demonstrate how we can take advantage of those filters and use them for quote-unquote reporting purposes. And one thing that I do want to stress when we're talking about especially the SQL reports or the advanced reports, folks, and I'm going to get this out of the way right away, is that you have the ability to customize those SQL report templates the same way that you could with the Crystal Reports templates, or the same way that you can with your document assembly templates. Now, if you are going to attempt to create your own or edit or customize your own SQL reporting templates, you will need to download the Microsoft SQL Report Builder. That is a piece of software that is free to download from the Microsoft website. You can either go there and find it, or I would suggest just doing a search in Google for Microsoft SQL Report Builder, and you'll be able to find the most current version of that and where you can download that directly from Microsoft. And like I said, that is free of charge. And also, please do note that when it comes to a support perspective of things, our technical support team is not able to assist in anything in regards to the customization or creation of SQL reporting templates. That is something that you would have to go through Microsoft for, as that is done through the Microsoft SQL Report Builder. But do note as well that our professional services team here at Amicus Next does indeed have some engineers that are capable and ready and able to help you in the creation and customization of those SQL report templates. Of course, there would be a charge for that, but do speak to your account representative if that's something that you're interested in having our team help you out with, and you'd be able to get speaking to a professional services engineer who would be able to give you a quote as far as the time needed and the price involved in doing something like that based upon the needs that you might have. And one other thing I want to mention when it comes to customizing or creating your reports, if you're going to edit an existing report template, and I would say the same thing for document assembly templates as well as the Microsoft SQL reporting services or the report templates, is that if you're going to do anything with an existing template as far as editing it and so forth, save a new copy of it and rename it to something different. That way, when you do an upgrade of Amicus Attorney or anything along those lines, there is absolutely no danger of that report being overwritten. But if you do edit an existing template and you leave the name as is, then if that particular report template is part of an Amicus Attorney update later on, well, it's going to look at it as the same file name and presume that it's the same report template, and therefore it will update and basically overwrite your edited template. So do keep that in mind as well, folks. Hopefully that's a little tidbit of information that saves you all a lot of grief and frustration moving forward. Now that we've gotten that little tidbit of information out of the way, let me focus back here on the actual reporting services and so forth that we've got available. So I want to talk about Microsoft SQL reporting services and Crystal reports together at this point. These are reports that can be generated based upon the included report templates that come with your Amicus Attorney. And as well, like I said, you can create and or customize the templates as well. Now, the Crystal Reports templates, those are the basic reports. And like I said earlier, those are legacy and they are customizable. However, if you want to customize the Crystal Reports templates, folks, you will need to get the Crystal Reports software. And from the last I heard, I don't know the exact price, but I do know that it is a little bit of a pricey investment for that piece of software. So do keep that in mind as well. But you would need that to be able to do so. And again, outside of that, you could always speak with our professional services team in regards to customization of those, as well as the SQL report templates and the document assembly templates. Now, our Microsoft SQL or advanced templates, these are the current standard. They are quite powerful and extremely customizable. Now, I mentioned earlier that both types of templates are indeed customizable, and like I mentioned earlier as well, the Crystal reports do require expensive Crystal report software to customize, whereas the SQL report templates require free SQL report builder software. But in both cases, some assistance may be required, and in those cases, you would have to reach out to those respective third parties, such as Microsoft in the case of the SQL report templates, or Crystal reports in the case of those templates. Now, reporting is broken down as such within Amicus Attorney. We have user-level reports. These are accessible by all users within the program, and they are more individual or user-centric reports, if you will. And again, when we get to the demonstration portion of things here today, folks, I will try to add some levity to these statements and hopefully hammer home these points and have them make a lot more sense for those of you that might be new to the concepts of the things that we're discussing right now. Now, as well, we've got firm-level reports. These are accessible only by the administrator or administrators within Amicus Attorney. And these reports tend to be more firm-centric or more of a global type of data set, if you will. And of course, we've got some billing reports as well. And those are accessible on the billing side of Amicus Attorney if you are indeed licensed for Amicus Attorney billing. And again, I'm going to demonstrate those ones as well for you guys today. So fear not, we will take a look at all of that together here quite shortly. Now as well, I mentioned earlier that we can utilize the document assembly features within Amicus Attorney for the purposes of reporting. And again, it's probably not something that a lot of us might think of off the top of our head as using for reporting. We generally think of document assembly as the ability to generate documents for our clients and so forth. And of course, we can utilize hot docs for all of this as well. I mentioned earlier that that is an add-on product that we would utilize in conjunction or in link with Amicus Attorney, if you will. And when we're talking about document assembly, well, these reporting tools will allow us to generate a report at the file or matter level, as well as at the contact or the client level, if you will. And much like the SQL report templates and the Crystal report templates that we talked about earlier, these document assembly templates can be customized as well. And in regards to hot docs, well, if you're doing anything that's a little bit on the complex side of things, you may want to speak to our Abacus Next professional services team in regards to some assistance for that. Now, I suggest that you may want to. That's not necessarily to say that you may need that, but do note that that is an option that is available to you. And of course, that is something that we can provide in regards to assistance in that sort of thing. Now, as I was mentioning, when we're talking about document assembly in the terms of reporting, well, we would be utilizing some document assembly templates that were created for the purpose of generating a report. And like I mentioned earlier, these templates can be edited or created by yourselves, and our Abacus Next professional services team can indeed create or edit templates for you guys as well. And the last thing that I want to talk about from a discussion perspective side of things here, before we get into looking at all of this stuff within the software, is what I referred to earlier as the quote-unquote interactive reporting tools that are within Amicus Attorney. And what I really mean by that is some of the filters that we have in modules such as the Files module, the People module, or on the billing side of things in Amicus Attorney. We could go into our Files module and utilize filters there. We could do the same thing in our Clients module over on the billing side, and the same thing in our Time, Fees, and Expenses, or the billing module itself. And again, I'm going to demonstrate all of that for you guys as we move along here. And as I mentioned here as well, we've got the, as I forgot to mention, we've also got the headers on our columns within these different modules that we can use for sorting purposes as well. And I'll show you guys the show group by options as well. And of course, we do have the summary information over on the billing side as well. So we've had a little bit of a discussion here about all of this stuff. So I don't want to spend too much more time on that side of things. I feel that it's going to be much more beneficial for all of you guys to see some of this stuff in action now that we've actually spoken about it. So let me just get out of my nice little slideshow here, and you'll see that I am indeed logged into Amicus Attorney, and currently I'm in the tutorial office within the program, and that is something that you all indeed have access to. Think of it as having a sandbox within the program so that you can learn and implement things that you've learned or try new things out within the program without ever having the concern of messing with your real live data. So we take that concern out of the equation completely when we're using our tutorial database. So the first thing I want to take a look at with you guys, and because I'm in the tutorial office, we're going to do this in a little bit of reverse order. I'm going to do the firm reports and the actual user level reports. We'll take a look at those towards the end here. Because I'm in the tutorial office, I cannot access those. So that's why we'll come back to those later. The first thing I'll take a look at with you guys, though, is what I called earlier the interactive reporting tools. So if I'm here on the attorney side of the program, well, I could go to the Files module, and I don't have a lot available to me here, but I can do this by file type, for instance. So let's say I wanted to get a quick idea of how many civil litigation files we might have within the firm. Well, I could filter the list here based on the type filter here. I could select civil litigation. And, well, there's the 8 files that I have for civil litigation. And because I have a partner security profile, I have the ability to look at all firm files by selecting that. I'm even going to change my designation to all here. But I'll keep my type as civil litigation. And, well, here in the firm, we currently have 16 civil litigation files. And if I wanted to filter that further to note how many of them are active, well, I could change that setting there, and I have 16 active civil litigation files here. I can also utilize these special designations in the filtering process as well if I wanted to, and if it's something that we actually use. Now I can do the same thing in my people module here. Right now I'm showing 94 contacts, and these are just my contacts. I could again filter the list to show me my firm contacts. In this case, we have 102 in the firm database. And I could then turn and say, okay, I want to see ones that are in a certain group. So just bear with me while my system decides to catch up here a moment, folks. So I can say in any or all of the selected groups, and let's just do a simple one here. We'll use our clients group as an example. Let's say OK. And so of those 102 contacts that I saw, 51 of them are part of the clients group. Therefore, I know that they are designated on any one of our files as a client. As in doing so, they are automatically added to that clients group. But perhaps I want to view a different group. So I could remove that one here. And let's look at our consultants, for instance. And you'll see that I have only one consultant at this point in this particular database, but very easily I can use the filters to find that information. And therefore, I technically have a report at this point here on my screen. So that's on the attorney side of things. Let's take a quick look over at the billing side as well as to how we can utilize some of these filters for these purposes. And then I will show you guys the group by and so forth as well here. So if I was to go to my files module, for instance, again, I can do the same thing here. I can filter based on responsible lawyers or primary clients, but I can also filter on file type and special designations. And I can as well say include only files with AR and WIP, an AR balance, a WIP balance, or AR and WIP. So this would be an easy way that I could do a very quick report within the program here on screen to find out how many active files we have with work in progress balances. Well, I just filtered that, and we have 7. If I want to find out how many I've got with accounts receivable balances, well, I would filter accordingly like so. And again, I have 7. So you can see how that can be taken advantage of as well. And if we do the clients module, we've got the same things available to us here. And time and fees, I can use these filters. And of course, the same would be true for my billing module here. I could go over here, and perhaps I want to get an idea of how many outstanding invoices we might have out there right now. Well, what I could do is I'll toggle my firm files instead of just my files, and I will say only outstanding bills, and perhaps I want to see from the first of the year till now. So I will use my date selectors here, and I will select January the 1st of 2019 all the way till the 30th of this month, and there you'll see over the course of that time frame I have these 5 outstanding invoices. Now as well, I wanted to show you guys how you can use the columns here for sorting purposes. So we can sort based on client and matter ID, file, unposted fees, WIP fees, and so forth. But as well, there's an option here where we could do something like so. And let me go back to my attorney side of things to show an example of this, simply because I've got a little bit more available to us here. So let's just change that to all, and we'll put that back to all. So what I could do in a case like this, let's say I could go show group by, and much like we use the filters over here to determine how we were going to see certain things, and I selected civil litigation as my option there. But perhaps we just want to get a breakdown of all of our different file types in one quick view. Well, by right-clicking and selecting the option to show group by, you'll see that I now get this option up here, drag a column header here to group by that column. Well, I'm going to use the file type column again here. I'm going to drag it over like so. And so what you'll see is I'm now presented with a bit of a grid here where it gives me a breakdown of every file type that's in use and how many files are using that particular file type in parentheses, as you can see here. So for instance, under administrative law, I've got 3. And if I click the little plus sign to expand that, there's the 3 files that are of the type of administrative law. Same would hold true for civil litigation, which we looked at earlier, and so forth. So this may be a very handy reporting mechanism built right within the software that a lot of you may not have been aware of. So I'm hoping that we were able to glean a little bit of information here for you guys in that sense. So let me go back out of here. Sorry, ladies and gentlemen, just bear with me here while my system catches up. And so what I'd like to show you guys as well here is the next thing I want to show, I should say, is how we can take advantage of document assembly in regards to reporting. And you'll see that by simply dragging that off of there, I've now changed my view back to normal. And what I can do as well is now just go here and remove the check mark from the show group by option, and you'll see my list is back to the way that I would expect to see it. And again, I can alphabetize the list, or I can sort based on these column headings as well. So the next thing, like I said, I wanted to show you guys is how we can take advantage of document assembly for reporting purposes. So let's see here. I don't want to see just my non-billable. Let's show all, and I'm just going to go back to my files, for instance, here. We'll keep this nice and straightforward, but perhaps I'd like to see a report or generate a report based on my Bailey Rekipling file. Well, I can select my file here. I could click the Generate Document button. And you'll see here that with the included templates that come with Amicus Attorney, there is indeed a section for file reports. And so if I expand that, well, you'll see that I've got a few options available to me here. So for instance, I'm going to run the file chronology report here, and I'm going to select the one from Microsoft Word because that's what I happen to have installed here on this machine. And I would simply click OK. And you'll note that I could do it for all shown or simply the selected. So I could do a file chronology report for all of my files in one motion if I really wanted to do so. And so in selecting the document template here now, it is now going to open up Microsoft Word, as that is the style of template that I've selected here. And let's see what we get generated for ourselves here. And so as you can see here, I'm just going to move this out of the way as soon as my system allows me to do so here. There we go. So as you can see, we've just generated a report instead of a real document, if you will. And this is giving us a file chronology report for my Bailey Rekipling file. It gives us a breakdown of the file name, the file type. There's our client ID and matter ID values, respectively, telling us what date it was opened on, the lawyers that are involved, and then it gives us a chronology of each and every item that has been created and associated to that particular file, as you can see. If we're looking closely at this breakdown, and let me just scroll back up here so we can kind of see everything in turn here. We've got a phone call record. We've got some time entries. We have an appointment record here. Another time entry. We have some notes. We have a to-do here. Actually, a couple of them. We have an email here, and so forth. So as you can see, it's giving us a breakdown of everything that's been created and associated to this particular file, and it's doing so in chronological order. So I'm not going to save that, but I want to quickly show off a couple of the other reports that are available for you guys, just in the event that you guys may not have taken a look at some of this stuff. And I just want to make sure I'm not missing any other ones for you guys here as well. Okay, so if we again go to the file reports, we also have a last next report. So I'll run that one quickly so you guys can get an idea of what that one's going to generate for us. And so as we can see here on this last next report, again, we get a breakdown of the file number. So there's our client ID and matter IDs respectively, the file type, and the lawyers involved. Then we get to see the last event, the last time entry, and the next event. Now there's a couple of more of them in here, and I'll just quickly generate each of these so again we can get a good idea. And do note as well, folks, that these are kind of like templates as well that you could base things off of. So for those of you that are familiar with working with document assembly templates, you'll know that you can take one of these existing report templates, for instance, here in the document assembly templates, and you may want to edit it and customize it for your own use. As well, you might use it as kind of the template of creating your own custom document assembly templates as well. So that option is always available to you, as well as simply creating a brand new document assembly template from scratch. So do take note of that as well, please. So this time we'll select the status report, and we'll just get a quick view of what we get here. And then we'll also touch upon the vacation report, and then from there we will move along to taking a look at both the crystal or the basic reports, as well as the advanced or sequel reports within Amicus Attorney. And we'll spend a little time on a few of those as well for you guys. And I do apologize for the latency that my system seems to be experiencing this afternoon, folks. Okay. And allow me to just move that the Amicus save options out of the way here. I'm actually just going to click cancel on that. And so here's a status report that was generated using a document assembly template. And as you can see, we get the file name, the file type, again, our client ID and matter ID values, the date that the file was opened, the lawyers involved, and from here we get a breakdown including the file summary, some file status notes, and the last and next events. We then see some accounting information here as well. So we'll see the total time on the file and the total dollar value of the time on that file. So that's a nice little breakdown that we get right there. And again, all of this information is, such as the file summary and these file status notes, are taken directly from the file itself and populated into the fields here on the template. And we'll take a look at one more here, I do believe. And that is indeed the vacation report. So if I run the vacation report here, again, I will select the one for Microsoft Word. We'll hit OK on that. Okay, and so here is the vacation report that we get generated. And of course, this just gives us some information, again, based on the file itself. So in the file, there is an option for vacation notes. And you can see that we are grabbing that information from the file and populating it here on the report, as well as the file name, the file number, which again is our client ID and matter ID, and the lawyers involved. Bill, I do see your question here where you're saying that you do not see the button up here at the top. If you go to your View menu and go to Toolbars, make sure that the Advanced is selected. That should take care of that for you. If not, I would suggest reaching out to technical support just to make sure there's not something that I'm not thinking of, because that should be all you need to worry about in regards to getting that to show up. Unless, of course, it might be something to do with a security profile. A colleague just happened to overhear us having this little discussion, so it could be something to do with the security profile as well, folks. So do keep that in mind as well. And that, oh, perfect, Bill. Perfect. Thanks. Glad to hear that. And thank you for letting me know. So, Dominic, I would suggest trying the same thing. Go to the View menu like you just saw me direct Bill here on. Go to Toolbars and select Advanced. If that still doesn't show that document, the Generate Document button there for you, then by all means, it could be something with a security profile, but do reach out to technical support and they'd be able to help you diagnose that a little further, because there's a couple different rabbit holes we could go down on that particular journey or investigation, if you will. But do note as well, folks, while we're talking about document assembly, before we segue over into the reports and stuff, I'm kind of glad that Bill mentioned that he didn't see that button, because I kind of made it a note earlier in one of the sessions I did on this to mention that, and I apparently forgot to include that note here on my script. So if we don't see that there, or just so you guys know of other ways to generate documents, well, you can right-click on a file and select the Generate Document option from the shortcut menu here. You can go to the Actions menu after you've selected an item and select Generate a Document. Or if you guys like using keyboard shortcuts, you can always do Control-D on your keyboard, and that will bring up the options for generating a document. As well, if I open up the file, and of course, as I say that, we got to just wait a little moment for it to catch up to us here. So if I open the file itself, well, we would have the Generate Document button down here. I could do Control-D again if I'm a fan of my keyboard shortcuts. And as well, I could go to the Actions menu and select Generate a Document from there. And do note as well, folks, I'm going to show you guys that you can do this from the People module as well. I do apologize, folks. I'm not sure what's causing my system to lag a little bit here. Just bear with us here at the moment as it catches up for us. Okay, we'll just let that close in the background. And let me go back to my contacts here. We'll say in any group. You guys know as well, you'll have the Generate a Document button up here in the People module. I could select a contact. I could right-click and select the Generate Document option here. I could go to the Actions menu and select Generate a Document. And of course, I've got the Control-D option available to me as well. And if I open up the contact, I have the options here as well as in the actions menu from here. So do note, folks, that there are definitely many different areas from which we can access the document generation features. And so with all of that being said, I'm going to move along now to the reporting side of things, or the report templates themselves. And so I'm going to return back to my office because, of course, like I mentioned earlier, when we're in the tutorial office, certain things are not available to us. And one of those things are reports. So we're going to move back out here. And the first area of reports that we're going to take a look at together, once everything catches up here, are the user level reports. So again, you guys will remember earlier in the session when we were having our discussion, we talked about how reports are broken down. And we've got user level reports, we've got firm level reports, and we've got some billing reports. So I'm going to take a look at all those things together with you guys here now. So if we want to take a look at the user level reports, well, they're accessible to all of us, of course, unless our administrator has restricted us from accessing that via a security profile within the program. But if we're just running on default settings here, if you will, then all of you will have the user level reports available to you up here in the upper left of the Office module, where we find the home option, the preferences, and so forth. So if we click on reports here, you'll see that we get a breakdown of the reports that are available to us. We have some calendar reports, we have some communications reports, we have file-based reports, people-based reports, time-based reports, and of course, if we're utilizing the client portal feature of Amicus Attorney, well then we've got some available reports for that as well. And now we'll go back to the calendar module here, or the calendar reports I should say here, and you'll see that we've got two columns. Basic reports, so these are those crystal reports that I referred to earlier, or the legacy ones that are going to be very familiar to all of you who've been with Amicus Attorney for many versions and quite some time. And then, of course, we've got the advanced reports, and these are those SQL report templates that I mentioned earlier. So I'm going to show you guys the differences between these two reports here quickly, and I figure that we'll find one that'll give us a good breakdown here. Let me see, my file index specified status. So I've got the same report on both sides, as you can see here, a basic version, or a crystal reports version, if you will, and an advanced or a SQL reports version as well. So let's take a look at these two reports. We'll do the first one, my file index specified status. So I'm going to select the run option here. I've selected it out of the basic reports column. We'll click run. I could just double click on that as well if I wanted to. And so you'll see I get this report generation dialog presented to me. My file index specified status. And so from here, I'm going to say, show me all of my files. And you'll see that I get an option to select the report format that I want it generated in. Do I want it as an Adobe PDF, a Microsoft Excel spreadsheet, rich text format, which is really just an RTF file that will open in whatever our default word processing program is, and of course, Microsoft Word. I'll select rich text format. This is going to open in Word because Word is my default application for word processing here in my Windows settings. And so there's a break or an example of a crystal or basic report. And Bill, I will take a look at the time ones with you guys as well, for sure. And then we'll take a look at the billing ones as well here once we get past those. So there you'll see is an example of a legacy or crystal report for our file, my file index specified status. So I'm going to generate the same report, but I'm going to use the advanced report template this time, just so you guys can see the difference between the two. So again, I'll click the Run button here. I've selected it here in the Advanced Reports column. You'll see I get a similar dialog where I'm asked for the file status. So again, I'll make the same selection that we did before. I'll select all. You'll note that I do not have a format option here. And you'll see why as soon as I click OK here and the report generates. So when we do the SQL-based reports, we're not going to be generating them to another program as we did with the Crystal reports, such as going to Word or Adobe or Excel or RTF, rich text format. In this case, we generate a report and it opens up in this view for us, and I'll expand this or maximize this for viewability here. So you'll see I get a similar looking report, but it's a lot more user-friendly in a lot of ways. Anywhere you see these chevrons, well, that means that these columns can be sorted, like so. And if I want to print out the report, well, I can simply click the print icon here. If I want to export the report and save it as a certain file type, well, I can click the export button here, and you'll see I've got the different types of files that I can save this as. So let me close that report here. And Bill, you wanted to take a quick look at the time one, so while we're here, let's do that. So if I go to the time section, again, we've got some basic reports and advanced reports. And I'll try to do the same type of example here. So we could do all my time date range report. Let's do this one together. We'll do a run on there. And so you'll see I get the report generation dialog for this particular template. This report requires the following information. So we would select our dates. So I'll just do for the month of April. I'm probably not going to have a lot of information to show in here. So you know what? Let me go back a little bit. I'll go to January 1st till today. We'll say minimum time and rounding time. And of course, again, I am asked to determine which format I want the report generated in. So let's say OK on that. And again, I won't be shocked if I don't have a lot of data to display on this particular report, and I'll apologize ahead of time for that, folks. I usually use the tutorial database for a lot of this stuff, and I did not plan this one as well as I thought. So with that said, I don't have any time entries that are falling within that date range, but we would see that information here if I did. And so let me quickly do this report just to show. And I'll pick some different, I'll go farther back and hopefully I might have something in here. We'll go back to September 1st. And I will say all. So you'll note that my options are a little different. I have my date options and my billable status. I can say OK on that. And again, I didn't have any time entries that fall in here. I apologize for not having something to show you guys a little bit better here. But again, you'll see that this report generated in much the same fashion. I've got my sortable chevrons here, if you will. So you can see that I could definitely, you guys should see it at a glance at these. You'll note that the SQL reports are a little more on the interactive side of things. And that can be very beneficial. And there are some cases where you can actually click on the description line of an item, such as a time entry, and it will open up that actual time entry. Let me show you a good example of that. Let me just show you the firm reports here quickly, and I'll show you a great example of an interactive report within the program here as well. So if I quickly go over to the firm reports, you'll note we've got some of the same stuff. But if you guys will recall, when we talked about the different level of reports, if you will, we just looked at the user level reports. So we know that those are accessible by all users and they're individual or user-centric reports. Well, when we look at the firm reports that we see under the administration section here, these are firm level reports and they're accessible only by our administrator or administrators. And they're very much firm-centric reports. So they're going to be a much wider gamut of information, if you will. Bill, in that case, you may have some reports that are not published, for instance, or it might be that I've got some extra templates that you don't have. Either which way, if you're concerned about that at all, I would definitely just recommend a quick call out to our support team. They'll be able to take a look at your settings and note whether anything has been published or hasn't been published and so forth, and get that up to speed for you. That would be really the only thing I could suggest out on that front. Again, outside of that, it would just be a simple matter of I potentially have some report templates in here that you don't have. But I can't see where that would be much of a possibility. We're not in the tutorial office at this point, and I haven't added anything custom to this. So again, if yours isn't jiving with mine, it's either that you're not on the same version of Amicus Attorney as I am, and if you want to know how to determine that, you can go to the Help menu and select About Amicus. Yours should be, if it's the latest and greatest, it'll be 20.3.0.11. There is a 20.4 that is coming down the pipelines, but I do not believe that it has been made general availability just yet. So do keep your eyes and ears peeled for that. But in the meantime, that would be the most current version. And as long as you're on that, then our stuff should match. And if it doesn't, definitely reach out to support. If you're not on the same version, that could also be a factor here. And again, if you want to get that upgraded, do reach out to your account representative, and we can get that taken care of for you guys as well. And so I did want to quickly show off some billing reports for you guys. I'm just taking a look at the time left for us here. So here over on the billing side of Amicus Attorney, you'll note that we've got a reports option here in the navigation panel. And if I go in here, well, I've got some reports that are available based upon my billing information. And allow me to quickly go back into the tutorial office so that I can actually have some data to represent on those reports for you guys. So just bear with me a moment while I do so. I'd rather not show a blank report for you guys again. I apologize on that front. Okay, so my tutorial office is loaded here. So let me, it's almost loaded here. Dominic, I will revisit that for you in just a few moments, and we'll go through that together. Okay, so my tutorial office is loaded here. So, all right, I think it has. Again, I really do apologize for the latency we're experiencing here, folks. I rebooted this machine before our session, so I don't have an explanation as to why we're experiencing this, but again, I apologize. So as you can see, I've selected reports here on the navigation panel on the billing side of things. Okay, folks, I apologize. I'm just going to exit the program and log back in. There we go, folks. Again, my apologies for that delay here, but we're going to just open up my tutorial office again here quickly, and I want to show off those billing reports for you guys, and then Dominic, I will go back to the to my office here, and we'll take a look at that time report for you as well. Okay, so here is my tutorial office again. So I'm just going to go over to the billing side. And as I was saying earlier, here in the navigation panel in the billing module, we have reports. So let me take a look at that with you guys together here. And so again, we've got some reports in regards to our billing information. So for instance, if we wanted to do a report on accounts receivable by client, or a bill journal report, or a client listing, or perhaps wanted to do a GL transaction report, time and fee journal, things along those lines, all that is available to us here. And do note, folks, that unlike on the attorney side, when we were looking at the user level reports and the firm level reports, where we had both basic or crystal reports, and we had the advanced or the sequel reports, here on the billing side of things, all of the reports that you see here are all SQL-based templates. So they're all interactive reports, and they're all, again, the more advanced type of template when you're thinking about customization or anything along those lines. Now, I was going to also very quickly show you guys an example of some of the interactivity of these reports, and then I'm going to go and take care of Dominic's question here about a report on the attorney side as well. So I'm going to just show you guys very quickly. If you're doing a mass billing run, I'm going to just leave my settings as here, but this button right here, check for unposted time, when you click on that, it's going to generate a report for you. And this is a fantastic example of just how interactive these advanced or SQL-based reports templates can really be. So you guys will recall earlier I mentioned that in some cases, not only can you sort based on these chevrons that we've got here, but I want to show this off. So here's an example of an unposted time report, and it gives us a breakdown of these time entries, and there's the description line for each respective time entry, as you can see. Well, watch what happens when I click on the description line for that particular time entry. For the Widgetco share purchase, telephone conference with client, you'll see that I opened up that time entry. I can then post this time entry from here, like just by simply clicking on the post button. And then rather than having to rerun this report, I can simply go up here and click on the refresh button. And as you can see, the report has refreshed, and now I can simply keep working away. I don't have to keep running the report over and over again. So I just wanted to quickly show that off and utilize that as a fantastic example of just how interactive these reports can be. And so now to answer Dominic's question, Dominic asked about, can we generate under attorney a time report for just one file? Well, I'm back out here in my office, so I could go to my reports, and as a user level report, I can go and take a look here. As you can see, I've got a My Time report for specified file, Dominic, so you could run that one. That's a basic report. And so if we did that one, I'll just do a quick example for you here. You'll see I've got the options for, again, my minimum and rounding time, but here is where I make my file selection. So if I wanted to run this report for, say, my Costanza versus Vandelay Industries file, I would simply select it like so, pick my format, and hit OK to run that report. And so as you can see here, I now get a report based on all the time entries on that particular file. Oh, you're quite welcome, Dominic. You're quite welcome. I didn't want to just go ahead and answer your questions so much as I wanted to make sure I added some demonstration to that as well. Because if you guys are anything like me, sometimes hearing it is never enough. It's easier to enforce and commit to memory if we see the workflow and so forth as well. And of course, let's just take a quick look at our firm reports. And if we look at time here, well, you'll see that also here in the basic report section, we could do a time entries based on selected file and date range. Now, of course, when we do the report from here, it's only going to grab the time entries for me on that file. So if I wanted to do a more global report of all of our attorneys' time entries or all of our users' time entries on a particular file, well, then I would want to, as an administrator, I'd have to be able to run this report, of course, but I would come in here to firm reports, I'd go to time, and I would use this report, time entry selected file and date range. And so again, I will select the same file, my Costanza versus Vandelay. And again, we would select our dates accordingly. So we will just put that to there. And I'll leave my format as such, but we'll hit OK here. And so this would give us a more global report for the firm, if you will, that would give us all of the time entries on that particular file, regardless of who input them. So it could be me, Dominic, it could be some of your time entries, then there could be some of my time entries, and then some of our colleagues, all on that particular file. We'd be able to see that all on this particular report. So I hope that helps to answer that for you as well, Dominic. I probably went a little further than you maybe wanted me to or were thinking about, but I hope that I've added some information for you there as well. And that, ladies and gentlemen, we pretty much hit the end of our allotted time today. So if there are any additional questions, I'll give a couple of moments here so that we can field those, and I'll try to answer those quickly for you. And of course, if not, if it's something I got to do a little digging on, then I'll ask you to provide your contact info, and I'll follow up accordingly. But again, I will just leave it open here for a few moments to see if there are any additional questions. Okay. I don't see any additional questions coming up, and it is now 4:15, so it definitely looks like we have reached the end of our session for today. Thank you, everyone, for taking the time out of your busy schedules for attending and participating in today's Abacus Next Free Training Tuesdays Reporting 101 session. I hope to see you all back here next week, where we're going to be discussing and demonstrating the client portal feature within Amicus Attorney. Again, thank you all for attending, and have a wonderful rest of your day today, your week to come, and the weekend that follows.